In today's episode, during listener Q&A, Daniel and I offer some information about traditional linoleum flooring.
And later, we'll chat with Bo Shepard and Kyle Dubay, also known as Woodward Throwbacks. They discuss their journey of designing and building furniture and interiors using salvage materials.
But first, I'm Stacy Grinsfelder.
And I'm Daniel Cantor.
You're listening to True Tales from Old Houses. Hey, Daniel.
Hello. I feel like this is the season of welcoming Stacy back from wherever she's just been. So welcome back from Missouri this time.
Thank you so much. I am back from Missouri. I am happy to be back. There is nothing like sleeping in your own bed. Would you agree?
I would agree. And also, I would like to, before we launch into today's episode, I stole your line, thank our season 11 sponsors, who include The Window Course by Scott Seidler of the Craftsman blog, Sutherland Wells, Abatron, and Noonan Heritage Craftworks.
Yes, thank you so much to our sponsors. It's always a wild card how we're going to lead into that little bit, isn't it?
I think we nailed it.
I think we nailed it, yeah. But no, we are very grateful to our sponsors. They're handpicked for you. They have incredible products and services. So please use our coupon codes and check them out.
So what you got for us today, announcements-wise?
Several, as always.
Okay.
The first is, I know, I always have so much to say, but because I was out of town for a couple weeks and you were really bogged down with the cottage sale, we never had a chance to announce the giveaway. Remember that first book giveaway we did this season? Remember that one?
I do, and better late than never.
Better late than never, right? Our first giveaway was a signed copy of For the Love of Renovating. That was that gorgeous book written by the Brownstone boys, Barry and Jordan. And a signed copy, I have the winner, will soon be on its way to Louise Roberts.
Oh, congratulations, Louise.
Yeah, thank you to everyone who entered that giveaway. And Louise, we hope you love the book. It's so beautiful.
It's a great book. You will love it. I command you.
Daniel says you will, and you will. Yes. Well, if you missed that giveaway, we're actually running another one already. And that was for Lee McColgan's book called A House Restored. And Lee was just here during episode 136. He has written this really interesting memoir about learning the trades and restoring his 1700s New England colonial. Things have been so nutty around here that I did actually extend that giveaway until July 11th. And there actually aren't that many entries yet. So your chances are really good. Yeah.
Yeah, so head on over to truetalesfromoldhouses.com/giveaway to enter. Stacy and I have both read this book. I think we both recognized much of ourselves within its pages. So we think you'll enjoy it too.
Definitely. It was just like looking in the mirror reading that one, wasn't it?
Sometimes a little uncomfortably, yes.
All right. And because we are doing all kinds of book giveaways this year, I just wanted to say that we will be announcing one today, starting today, because Bo and Kyle, our guests, have recently released their own book. We're going to actually talk more about that later in this episode, but the link to enter that giveaway of their signed copy of their book will be in the same place. That's truetalesfromoldhouses.com/giveaway. All right. With those giveaways out of the way, we have just a couple more things to say.
Now, we frequently ask you for ratings and reviews because we love them and it helps other people find the podcast. But if you're not into that for some reason, we would love it if you would share the show on social media. You can just take a really quick screenshot, send it to your followers, and we would just love to reach new followers and have new people find this magnificent show that you're currently listening to.
And we've been getting some ratings and reviews, really nice ones. So thank you very much for that.
Thanks, everybody.
The final announcement is just to remind people that we're getting really close to that window workshop at Silver Lake this summer, 2 weekends, and there's still spots available in both workshops. And I'm so thankful to Sutherland Wells and the Craftsman blog for their sponsorships. We also had one anonymous donor. Reserve your spot at blakehillhouse.com. We've talked about it a ton. It's a half day's drive from so many places, including Defiance, Ohio, which I now know because I went through Defiance, Ohio just a few days ago.
That's a town for me.
Yes. Isn't that a great name? Defiance,
I love it.
Ohio. Yes.
Everyone's just breaking laws all the time for fun.
Right. Just for fun.
But it is also a short drive from the Hudson River Valley, New York City, Syracuse, Rochester are just right there. Same with the Finger Lakes. Albany is a pretty close drive. Philadelphia, Pittsburgh. Stacy, what am I missing? I'm out of cities.
Well, of course, Fort Wayne, Indiana. And a little bit further past that, since we love Defiance, Ohio so much, Gas City is also very close there. So if you live in Gas City, Toronto, we didn't say Toronto, Hamilton, Ontario. So just across the bridge, we're right there.
Yes.
Our ultimate goal really is to extend window restoration education to underserved communities and just areas that don't have window pros available to them. And if we restore windows, then we can diminish our environmental footprint. You can save money as a homeowner and, of course, keep those windows out of the landfill. So again, visit blakehillhouse.com, reserve your spot. We are looking forward to it. I am gathering supplies and prepping materials pretty much every day between now and then.
Gonna be a blast.
Definitely. All right, we have time for just quick updates because this is a big episode.
Okay.
So what are you up to?
Well, honestly, a little on pins and needles because in the real time of our recording, it has been 2 weeks today since I accepted an offer on the cottage, and I still do not have contracts for this offer. And Brad told me last night, tomorrow's the day you gotta crack some skulls. So
yeah.
my version of cracking skulls is calling and being very, very friendly over the phone and just, hoping for the best. But
I was going to say,
it's stressful.
hey, this is Daniel, just looking for the contracts. Wondered if you've got them.
Are you spying on me? Yeah, it's pretty much that.
Don't want to be a bother, but my entire budget really hinges on this sale. So if you've got a minute, could you just call the buyer and give him a little nudge? How'd that sound?
Yeah, it actually appears to be entirely a lawyer thing. So the buyers aren't doing anything wrong and I'm not doing anything wrong. And the lawyers aren't doing anything wrong other than not getting their homework done. So that's happening. So that's mostly what's going on here. And then I've just kind of been trying to put my house back together still after robbing things left, right, and center for the cottage and kind of then just sitting in my mess for a week or two. And now I'm trying to clean up my act.
I hear that. I've been in and out so much the last month that my house is quite a disaster as well. But I got to give you a little update on my landscaping, which is incredible this year. We had a little chat about that earlier. And you know how perennials are. It's that sleep, creep, leap situation.
Mm-hmm.
First year they sleep, second year creep, third year leap. We are definitely in the leap period of the perennials here at my house.
Mazel tov.
Thank you. When I got home last night, I just was kind of in shock. I mean, everything has just gotten so much bigger. Even things like my rhododendron, which bloomed, and my forsythia, they just have foliage right now. They don't have any flowers. But they got huge. They grew at least 1.5 or 2 feet since I have been gone. My hydrangeas are just about to completely pop off. Yellow twig, dogwood. It's really neat. I'm having a good time this year seeing how everything looks. And it's really filling in that space.
That's so nice. That's always the best. And means less mulching as stuff really takes hold. I love that.
So you and I, of course, have talked about our gardening before, the way we do it, survival of the fittest. And so I just want to announce that everything is very fit here at Blake Hill House.
That's wonderful news. Here too, actually, to the point that I'm going to have to really start kind of thinning stuff out probably this fall.
Yeah.
Isn't it wild how that happens?
It's gotten so hot so quick. And I think that really was helpful for the plants. It's miserable for us, helpful for the plants.
Indeed.
Well, listen, we've got to take a quick break, but Our listener Q&A is up next, and we get to talk about something we haven't actually talked about on this show before, and that is linoleum.
Linoleum.
We should have made a song about that.
Why did I do that?
I don't know.
Cut,
la,
commercials.
La, 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 linoleum. All right, we'll be back. True Tales from Old Houses is supported by The Window Course. The Window Course is created by our friend Scott Seidler of the Craftsman blog, and it is a step-by-step do-it-yourself program that will teach you everything you need to know to successfully restore your wood windows. It's self-paced, so you can go as fast or as slow as you need, and there are also several price points to fit your needs and budget.
It's window season. It is the perfect time to get ready to restore the windows at your house, and the Window Course has all the information that you need all in one place. And Scott is even offering his students a special deal. So if you sign up for the Lifetime Access Package or the Training Package, you'll also get a free infrared paint remover which is a $100 value.
The window course comes with a money-back guarantee, and lucky for us, Scott is offering True Tales from Old Houses listeners a special discount. For 10% off, visit thewindowcourse.com and use the coupon code TrueTales. True Tales from Old Houses is also supported by Sutherland Wells. All of Sutherland Wells products are handcrafted in Providence, Rhode Island, with the highest quality, sustainably grown tung oil. Tung oil, native to China, has been used for centuries as a durable finish for wood, metal, and stone.
Now, you could be basic and grab yourself a can of polyurethane, but we want better for you. And tung oil finish is that it penetrates the surface of the wood, so it flexes and contracts as the conditions change. That makes it the perfect pre-finish or protectant for everything from fine furniture to window sash and sills.
I've been lucky enough to try many of their products, Millie's, Murdoch's, Clarabelle's, Slicky Wicky, now their furniture polish. I love seeing everyone's projects on Instagram, knowing that the word about Sutherland Wells is spreading. Now, whatever those projects might be, siding, hardwood floors, furniture restoration, cutting boards, there is a tung oil product from Sutherland Wells that's just right for you.
So to learn more about the complete product line, visit Sutherland Wells. That's WELLES, SutherlandWells.com. And to save 10% on your first order, use that coupon code TrueTales.
Welcome back, everyone. Today's question, it comes from Jessica, and Jessica submitted her question in our very favorite way through voicemail.
Yes.
Love getting those voicemails. So let's just go ahead real quick and listen to her message. Here it is.
Hi, this is Jessica from Smallwood, New York. And my question is about linoleum. I have a cabin in Smallwood that is from 1945, and I don't know when this linoleum is from, but the kitchen linoleum is like a beautiful yellow tile pattern. I love it so much, but it's a little ragged at the doorways. And I was hoping to replace it with the same. And I realized how linoleum is no longer really a thing, maybe just on the internet. Do you guys have any theories about why this may be? And what would you use instead of linoleum?
So Daniel, you've heard the question. Do you have some thoughts about linoleum? How would you answer those questions?
A few different things about linoleum. There are basically, when you're talking about vintage linoleum, there's pretty much two categories that I'm aware of. One is actual linoleum, which is made of linseed, and it's a really, really amazing material. The colors are encaustic, so they go all the way through the linoleum, so you can actually like revive it and refinish it almost, and then seal it with linseed oil. So that's one option. The other kind of type of vintage linoleum is not actually linoleum. It's basically an asphalt-based felt product that has oil paint on it to, have a really cool pattern and stuff. That stuff is really cool too. It does typically contain asbestos, so keep an eye on that. But you can clean it up. So it sounds like in Jessica's situation, either way, the linoleum maybe just has to be replaced, which does, of course, happen. So there are options there, but the one that I would like to direct you toward that I think will be the most at home in the vintage of your house and sort of authentic materials wise is actually a brand name called Marmoleum, but they are basically the biggest ones that still make real live linoleum. And so it's made from linseed oil. Linseed oil?
Linoleum itself includes like oxidized linseed oil, and they mix it with ground, cork and wood flour and other sort of natural materials. So I'm not exactly sure what Marmoleum's proprietary blend is right now. But yeah, it looks just like linoleum, and it's sold as linoleum. We had Marmoleum Click. We had the Click version in our house in California. They do make the sheets of Marmoleum, but the installation process is a little bit trickier because linoleum is very, very rigid. So it comes in this roll, but they have to kind of heat it. And as they're rolling it out so that it doesn't crack. And then there's actually a heating process, I believe, to weld the seams together. You can see the seam a little, but the idea is that you don't see it a lot. And that's not very DIY friendly. So a lot of people end up using the Marmoleum Click, which is what I used. Mine were in just all one color. They were in sheets, I think they were about 12 inches by 24 inch sheets. You put them together.
They were 12 by 36.
Oh, 12 by 36. You know, exactly. And those click into place. What's fun about them is that you can actually get them in 12 by 12s too. You can get them in a variety of widths and lengths, and you can piece them together so you can have a really cool colored pattern, all checkerboard or some longer, some checkers. It's really neat.
Yeah, that was exactly going to be my recommendation. In fact, the place that we have locally that does sell Marmoleum in the roll, they will not sell it to you unless it is being installed by a Marmoleum certified installer. That's how sort of not DIY friendly this installation is. But the click lock stuff, a lot of people don't even know exists. And it's an amazing product. It's cork backed. So it's super nice underfoot, feels really solid. It doesn't feel anything like kind of a more traditional laminate or LVP click lock.
It's very quiet.
It's very quiet and it's very seamless. You really can't, especially if you go one color, you really can't see where the seams are. So I really love that product. It's very DIY friendly. It's only, I think it prices about $5 to $6 a square foot. And they market it as fully waterproof. I've spoken to one person who used it in a bathroom and did not have a great experience. So I don't know what to make of that, but it's a great product. And it comes in such fun colors. There's a really bright yellow one that I'm obsessed with that may be a lot brighter than the one that you currently have. But if you want to stick with yellow, it's good.
The other half of the question that Jessica asked is why isn't linoleum popular anymore? And it's basically just comes down to that whole thing, cost. Vinyl became the replacement for linoleum. You could print on vinyl. It was, as we talked about, DIY friendly, a lot more DIY friendly. It rolled out in more flexible sheets. Everybody was looking for ease of use around the mid-century, and vinyl fit the bill.
It's vinyl.
Vinyl is vinyl, yes.
I think it's also an element of just sort of changing fashions. And so
sure,
I think even folks my age kind of look at linoleum as maybe what my grandparents had in their laundry room, or, it has an association with something that replaced something probably much nicer. And
right.
So I think it's coming back around though. And I think as people, I feel are starting to care more about the materials that are making the products that they're buying. So I think linoleum is going to have a moment because people will appreciate that it is very different than vinyl, even though it has many of the same qualities.
I agree. It's also considered sort of a greener option with less off-gassing. It's a really nice product to put in your house and to live in at the same time. Whereas sometimes those vinyl flooring options have to do some off-gassing. They smell a little plasticky, that kind of thing.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. So I did look it up. Marmoleum by Forbo is the one that I'm most familiar with. Apparently Armstrong, which they're the vinyl leaders, but they do have supposedly a linoleum option.
Do they?
Yeah. I would look at that really closely to make sure they're not interchangeably using those words, because that is another thing that people mistake sometimes. I think linoleum is vinyl and vinyl is linoleum, but they're two completely different things. And then there are some European companies, which I don't know. I'll just put a list of those in our show notes. So if anybody wants to look up more information about other manufacturers, you can. But Marmoleum, I think, is going to be the easiest one to put your hands on.
Yeah, it's great. I've used it in 2 kitchens. Absolutely loved it both times.
Thank you for that question, Jessica. If anyone else has questions for us to answer this season, we are definitely still taking them. Over the past 10 seasons, we've covered a ton of topics, and Q&A remains one of my favorite parts of doing this podcast.
Yeah, so please keep them coming. We'll take them through either the contact form, or if you go to the website and click a little mic icon in the bottom right corner, it'll give you a few prompts, and then you can leave us a voicemail.
And speaking of voicemail, whenever you have thoughts or comments about any episode, please do feel free to leave your feedback using that mic icon. We love to hear from you, and it would also be really fun to share your voicemails with the True Tales from Old Houses community.
Well, Stacy, I think it's time for another break, but our conversation with Woodward Throwbacks is coming up next. True Tales from Old Houses is supported by Abitron. Now, Stacy, you have a big old wood house. I have a big old wood house. We love our big old wood house, but we know that eventually things like windows, doors, columns, balusters, and any other wooden features will ultimately break down if exposed to the elements for long enough.
That is true, but Abitron products can help. For years, I have turned to Abitron's liquid wood and wood epoxy to make durable, cost-effective repairs on my own wooden doors and especially windows. The system consists of 2 products, an epoxy wood hardener.
That's the liquid wood.
And a lightweight epoxy wood filler.
That's the wood epox.
And with those two products, liquid wood and wood epox, you can effectively harden soft wood. You can patch pieces that are missing, reconstruct little ornamental details, or all of the above.
Now, learn from my mistakes. I spent many years using wood fillers that were not Abitron, and I experienced how quickly those repairs failed over time and need to be redone now. I truly adore my Abitron because there's no shrinking, there's no cracking. It sands and paints just like wood, and the repairs are super long lasting. I'm pretty sure they'll last longer than the rest of the house.
And available exclusively to True Tales from Old Houses listeners, Abitron is offering a 10% discount if you use the coupon code TRUE2024. So enter TRUE2024 at Abitron.com and save those existing wood features instead of replacing them.
True Tales from Old Houses is also supported by Noonan Heritage Craftworks.
You may know Joseph Parenti from Instagram for his work with historic exteriors in the Pittsburgh area. He's now extending his offerings to homeowners across the United States with Noonan Heritage Craftworks.
Old houses are overwhelming, and finding just the right help to restore and maintain your old house can be a huge challenge. Like, where do you start? What materials and methods should you use? Who can you really trust? Joseph is here to help you.
You can schedule a phone call, a video conference, or email consultation with Joseph to talk through your exterior project and to help you game plan. Whether you need to prepare maybe a scope of work or a second set of eyes to help compare estimates, or even figure out the right questions to ask vendors, Joseph can provide unbiased guidance to help you steer clear of pitfalls and ensure success.
To learn how Noonan Heritage Craftworks can work with you, visit our special landing page at Noonan Craftworks. That's Noonan, NoonanCraftworks.com/True Tales.
Our guests today are Bo Shepard and Kyle Dubay, perhaps best known as the duo behind Woodward Throwbacks. Based in Detroit, this talented duo is breathing new life into the many forgotten structures of Detroit with their take on adaptive reuse and furniture design using salvaged materials.
Hi, I'm Bo Shepard. I'm one of the co-owners of Woodward Throwbacks.
And I'm Kyle Dubay. I'm also a co-owner of Woodward Throwbacks. We design and build furniture and interiors using salvage materials.
Well, thank you so much for being here, Bo and Kyle. It's nice to have you here.
Yeah, thanks for having us. We're super excited to talk to you guys and share our story.
Hello and welcome. So I don't come in 5 minutes into the interview. I'm here.
Hi, Daniel. How are you?
Hi, I'm great. How are you guys?
This is off to a wild start, isn't it?
Yeah, it's just one of those days.
One of those days.
Yeah.
Sure.
Did a salvage job in the morning and then had to run to the shop. And now we're here talking to you fine folks.
I was going to say, I know that you've just been out doing a huge salvage job. So let's just start there. Let's start in the end, or let's start in the middle, and then we'll go back to the beginning. So what kind of job was it today? You were telling us it was an interesting story.
Yeah. So we, like I said, design furniture and interiors using reclaimed materials. And so we purchased a whole bunch of amazing 9-foot doors with transoms that we're actually going to incorporate into the warehouse that we're converting into our home, as well as a whole bunch of other antiques that we're going to sell in our store.
On this show, we've talked quite a lot about salvage material, like the backdrop, things that become, floors and balustrades and lighting and things that have been salvaged from other locations. But we don't really, or have never really had the opportunity to talk to somebody who makes sustainable furniture and decor the way you do. So I'd like to hear more about that, how that started. How did Woodward Throwbacks become Woodward Throwbacks?
So yeah, we started like 10 years ago, maybe even close to 11 now. But back then, Detroit was a lot different city than it is now. There was a lot of illegal dumping. There was just a lot of like abandonment and just stuff scattered everywhere. And Bo and I were always biking around, just curiously in areas where there wasn't a lot of people, but there was a lot of things. And
beautiful architecture. Detroit has one of the most architectural, everything is just, there's so much detail. And so for us, it kind of broke our heart to see some of these buildings in such disrepair. And then when people were renovating them, tearing everything out and just putting on the curbside. So it was almost...
This is before they were even renovating it. This was just people throwing stuff out on the street. But like that's when we started kind of just like grabbing stuff and like making furniture for ourselves and maybe some friends and family, and then kind of started selling at market, doing like more home decor at that point, and then just kind of kept snowballing into like what we've been doing now.
Yeah, it's been an evolution from just making small home decor, then to selling the salvage to our client base, and then now creating our own product line and designing full spaces for our clients and for ourselves. We dabble in real estate, so we've done residential and commercial for our own personal projects.
It's really, I mean, you guys are so industrious. So you're based in Detroit. Are you both from Detroit originally?
I'm from the East Coast. So I grew up in New York and in New Jersey. I moved to Detroit in 2008 to be, I know, right? To be in the automotive industry. So I used to be a car designer before Woodward Throwbacks came to be. And then with Kyle.
Yeah, I grew up in Michigan. I grew up about 2 hours north of Detroit, outside of a city called Saginaw. It's kind of very similar, like old automotive town. Went to college, played sports, and just kind of did the whole sports thing for 4 or 5 years. And then when I moved back to Michigan, there was just so much like interesting things happening in Detroit. It was very like underground art scene and just like, this counterculture stuff that was like, you know, I never heard anything positive about Detroit my whole lifetime growing up. And this to hear about this really cool, like the graffiti scene and the music scene and all this like art stuff happening, like I was just like, you know what, I want to come check it out. And I came down for a weekend and I was like, yeah, I got to move here. And the rest is history.
And then he met me.
And then you had to stay.
Yes. Well, I have a very soft spot for Detroit because I'm living in Buffalo now. And Buffalo and Detroit are so frequently compared and always underestimated. I think they're missing out. The architecture here is gorgeous. We have the same thing, graffiti art, food scene, you name it. And so I've enjoyed witnessing this, what I'm trying to say, what's happening here in Buffalo, but also what's been happening in Detroit.
Yeah, you need to come visit.
I'd love to. I would absolutely love to. One of my favorite t-shirts I see people wearing sometimes is a t-shirt that says Buffalo hates you too. And that always makes me laugh because, you know, every time you mention Buffalo, people are like, oh, I hate Buffalo. So the t-shirt, yeah.
Definitely does seem like they're very kindred
spirits. Yeah, sister cities for sure.
Yeah, 100%.
We all love an underdog kind of city. I live in Kingston, New York, which is not, well, it is kind of an old manufacturing town for like brick. But for many years, it was a headquarters for IBM, and they left in the early 90s, and basically Kingston kind of fell to its knees at the time. And so we've all sort of witnessed this weird revival of the places that we live in. And you guys certainly have participated in that. So
yeah, I've just been watching.
It's pretty, I mean, okay, just tell me about this warehouse because holy cow, it is so big.
Which one?
I know which one, but yeah. So me and Kyle purchased a 4,000 square foot warehouse in a very industrial part of like downtown Detroit.
In the city.
It's in the city, but we're really close to downtown. But they have the most amazing surrounding neighborhoods with like coffee shops and people walking their dogs. So we're like on like the outskirts, which we love.
It's definitely not people walking dogs where we're at. Not yet.
Yeah.
They will. It's coming though.
It's coming. I feel like this show is all about the spirit of like old homes and talking about the character. And for us, me and Kyle really love old buildings. And so it's a little bit same, but different. But this building was built in 1920. We actually just found out a little bit of research or history that it used to be headquarters for a greenhouse back in like 1920s. Well, no, supposedly the greenhouse was like way older, like the late 1800s. And then it used to be like a peanut manufacturing. And then it was a machine shop. And then
thrift store. And then some artists lived here for the last like 15 years.
Yeah, which is amazing because the whole concept of adaptive reuse and to be able to take these old industrial buildings and make it into a residential space, make it a home. I love that 20 years ago, someone else had that same vision and that now this can be our home. But yeah, we bought it last May. And so everything is custom because that's what we do. So we're incorporating salvaged marble for the countertops. And we're currently sitting in our custom banquette, which is made out of salvaged parquet flooring.
These were like dance floors from like churches and banquet halls that like would click together. I think we had one from a church and one from another center. So we have a lot of it.
Yeah.
And we've been using it to build furniture and like some custom millwork pieces with it. And It's all like white oak. So once you sand it down, like it looks beautiful.
But
It's
we
kind of
leave
very
all the
current.
texture. We're not sanding it down to like take away like the history because we want to highlight its past life. So that's a little bit different with what we do. And some of the other designers working with salvage is, yeah, we style with vintage, but at the same time, trying to preserve what's already here, but then take all other materials around us and transform them into something completely new. Like, yes, this is parquet flooring. Doesn't necessarily mean it needs to be flooring. It can be, like I said, a banquette. It can be a table. So that's kind of like the inner workings of how we
Your
see,
brain.
the inner workings of our brain. That's how we see salvage as materials that we can build with, even though it's not used as what it was intended for.
Right.
So will this entire place be your home, or is it a home / office / woodworking shop? I mean, how does it?
It's just our home.
Just our home. Yeah.
It's huge. I know 4,000 square feet seems kind of crazy, but I mean, we see ourselves being here for the rest of our days.
Rest of our Detroit days.
The rest of our days. We will not leave Detroit. We will never leave Detroit.
No, I love that though. And it's nice that it's just like you said, it's what you do. So how fun would that be to just have sort of carte blanche to like make it happen? That must feel great.
It's so beautiful. And like, I think I saw you epoxying the floors and basically being like, well,
Oh God, that was a
doing that
nightmare.
again. But I love
Yeah.
that you tried it.
Yeah.
How, like, I mean, tackling a 4,000 square foot house, I think is overwhelming enough. But to add the element of an industrial building, like, I guess, how do you approach a renovation like that? How much of the work are you guys doing yourself? Like, you're obviously super handy and unafraid, but the scale of it just seems wild to me.
We always feel like these buildings are easier than houses. We did a house last year, which took us like 3 years to do, mind you.
Yeah. It was really
It
hard.
was like 2,200 square feet, and it was a money pit. We also spend way too much money on our projects.
Everybody does.
Yeah, we like do it for the design, not for profit. And
Exactly.
so the buildings are easier in our minds because they're just like, you almost get to build new with inside of it. So you have like these great raw bones, the good structure, and then you get to kind of build in as you like. So it's almost in a ways somewhat like new construction inside of an old frame. Whereas like a 4,000 square foot home, you're talking about all these walls, and
The
rooms
built-in
and
rooms,
closets, and all these little corners and all the detail work that takes forever. And like, if you have a plumbing issue in a 4,000 square foot house and you don't even necessarily know where the lines are going, then you're opening things up. So it's a lot harder. This building structurally was great. The roof was rather new, and like compared to what Bo and I usually get, like we're usually buying something where the walls half fallen down or the roof caved in. And this one, we're like, wow, this is just full of junk, but it's pretty easy project. So we've been rocking and rolling on it.
The last house that he was talking about, if you were upstairs on the second floor, you can see all the way to the basement. That is how destroyed it was. The home is called the WT Philly house, and we have the portfolio as like well as like almost like a blog post that walks through the process with a whole bunch of before and after photos. So I definitely would highly recommend you check that out just so you can see the type of homes and projects that we tackle on, because it's definitely not for the weak, but it's almost we're trying to highlight and inspire people that, you know, some of these older homes or older buildings, you know, might take a little money, might take a little time. Blood, sweat, and tears for sure is worth it.
Is that on your website or is that in the book or both?
It's
It's in both. Yeah. So
Okay.
woodwardthrowbacks.com is our website. And then our book, Throwbacks Home Interiors, we have a whole chapter designated to the WT Philly house.
Oh, that's great. We'll get to the book part, but I will put that link for the blog article in the show notes too, so people can find it, because I think that'd be a really interesting read for people. But yeah, we're getting to the book. I don't know. Should we go to the book right now? That was a good segue. Let's go
That
to
was
the book.
a great segue. You guys.
It was. Yeah. So why a book? How a book and why a book?
Oh, man.
Yeah,
Well, I feel like we constantly get approached to do TV shows, which has never really been something me and Kyle have wanted to pursue. We actually decided to just like start our own YouTube channel, which we just launched a couple months ago. But we had a literary agent literally slide into our DMs and was just like, hey, would you want to write a book? And so we just took the meeting, and
I think we said no.
did we say
And then
no?
we took the meeting, and then she convinced us it was a good
Kyle
idea.
said no. And
And when like she presented it really well to us, it's like, you know, it's good for the brand, and it's like this overarching thing. And we started looking at it, like, because we thought it was too premature. We thought we hadn't done enough to do a book. Like, and then as we started talking to her about like, oh, you know what, we do have a certain voice here and a certain thing that's maybe not on the market that, and it also takes like 3 years to do it too. So within
Well, we
those
didn't
3
know it
years,
took 3 years, but she said it was
you
like
learn a lot. But yeah, I mean, it's just kind of like being open to the opportunity, and I'm glad that we did it. I'm glad that it's done, but it's something that's great that it's going to live on for so long. And it's just we've had good feedback from it, and it's just cool to see all that work
And also,
on paper.
Yeah. And also, like I said, we love Detroit so much. We love the people, we love the history, we love the culture and the architecture. And so to be able to showcase like how we approach design, especially with these found and vintage objects. And then, we're showcasing 15 homes in Detroit that live and breathe the same philosophy. And each home is completely different and they're separated into like 4 different chapters. Yeah, I think it's really empowering. And the book is not overly stylized. We want it to be approachable because, like I said, there's a lot of design books, which I love. But at the same time, it's just like my space will never look like this, especially since
your budget isn't there.
My budget's not there. But also it's like I'm the type of person where I want to fill my space with the things that I love. And that is what we're preaching in Throwbacks Home Interiors.
Well, you're in good company with that. That's very important to both Daniel and I. In fact, Daniel recently just styled a whole house.
Ooh.
Very interesting thing.
I
So,
did.
yes.
About 3 items in the entire house are new. Everything else is from some closet in my house.
It's the balance, old and new. I think that's completely okay.
I agree.
I love the sustainability too. I mean, I don't consider myself an influencer by any stretch of the imagination, but I tend to be influencer adjacent for some reason. And I just witnessed that absolute rampant consumerism, with interior design. And your book was so refreshing. I love to just sit and just look at all the pictures, and I could tell the thought and care that you put into it.
I was wondering, with all of the materials that you gather, do you ever feel weird about changing them or taking them apart and doing something else? Or is it kind of like, well, this is how it goes? Like, I don't know.
I know what you're saying. And there's like been times on Instagram sometimes where we get some like,
Oh, the canoe?
I cut a canoe in half one
I
time,
bet.
and let me tell you what. Like,
People lost their minds. But also
Yes,
like
Though
one.
there aren't more canoes out there.
yeah, and this canoe, I mean, if you put in a body of water, like
You're going to sink like the
it's gonna
Titanic.
sink right away. So like it was beyond anything but like,
But then also, you don't even know, like, to actually repair a canoe, you know how much money that costs? Like, come on.
No, I would never give you a hard time about the canoe or
Yeah.
really anything else. I'm just curious.
yeah, I mean, it's something that we think about sometimes, but it's just like, it just depends what we're doing. Like sometimes like we see that we're making pieces of furniture that are going to live on for a lot longer. And it's also situational where like a lot of instances we're getting materials because it's going to be thrown away right away. And it costs a lot of money to store stuff. Even though we own our building, like, the floor space costs money. So like it kind of has to come and go. And like, I tell you what, there's doors we've had for 6 years for $100 a piece and no one's bought them.
So we're cutting them up.
Yeah. Like,
And we're going to make the furniture out of it.
yeah. So it's just about, keeping the materials and letting them live on and being loved in a different way. So we have peace with it.
I feel like I see a lot of that kind of thing on Instagram specifically, where it's like, somebody's done something amazing with an old thing. And no matter what that old thing is, it's like people act like it's the last one on earth and it's the most special thing they've ever seen.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, like it was going in the trash. Or
I think it's more for like the painting of furniture. I
the
think that's
painting of mid-century
yeah.
modern furniture is a way big
Oh.
trigger for people.
How dare.
Yeah. Like if we're cutting some marble that came out of like a bathroom stall, because every single school in Detroit is lined in marble.
Mhm.
It's insane the amount of like rich materials that Detroit has that just gets constantly thrown away on like a daily basis. I don't think people are fretting too much on that, but yeah, I think the painting that takes the cake. We don't paint that much.
We don't paint the furniture.
Yeah.
But that's just the trigger on Instagram.
Right.
And it's also like,
Oh, yeah.
out of all the things, the mass-produced mid-century thing is like, I don't know, people are nuts. So obviously a lot of your stuff is being diverted from a dumpster or landfill. I assume enough people know about you now that you probably get a lot of calls and stuff of, hey, come out here tomorrow. We're throwing it away. Like, do you ever pay for this stuff anymore? Or is it pretty much all?
Oh yeah, all the time.
Yeah. I would
We
say,
pay for majority of it.
do we? Yeah, I guess we do.
Big time.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, we've been doing this for 10 years, so we're pretty well known in the community, and especially the construction industry. So we have different partnerships where people will call us like, hey, so-and-so building is getting renovated or demolished, and they'll call us. But yeah, sometimes
Some
we get
things are
things
for free, but
yeah, we do pay for items, especially when we travel. We love to check out all the antique yards, the salvage yards, the pawn shops. I mean, we love being able to bring things back, especially from our travels, because like I said, the architecture is different wherever you go. And it always inspires us for our next build or our next design project.
I completely get it. My favorite thing is to like visit like a flea market when I'm traveling, even if it's totally impractical to bring anything home or whatever. I just think it's cool to kind of see the things that people discard in a different culture, different area or whatever. It's always wild.
Are there any challenges that you find with being both artists and business people? I mean, do those conflict in a way that is
Constantly?
Yeah, constantly.
Well, we're also together too. So it's like being in a relationship, personal relationship, and then a business relationship. Yeah, I mean,
And being an artist and taking on like way too much stuff all the time because you see the vision for it. And then there's like still a business that you have to run at the end of the day too.
so we try to stay in our own lane with like our roles. So Kyle is more, do you want to share your roles and what you do at Woodward
I would
Throwbacks?
actually like to see what you say.
what do you think he does all day?
Yeah,
right?
what do you think I'm doing here?
So Kyle's the head of operations. I mean, he's in the shop. He's making sure that our team is doing what they need to do. What else do you do? But for me, I'm head of design. I mean, Kyle really spearheads like our core furniture collection, but I'm doing more of like our interior design. That's pretty much all me. And then I bring Kyle in here where I'm just like, is this going to work?
You're doing like the bigger
bigger
projects,
picture.
the full residential and commercial design projects.
And then I also like run our social media. So if you follow Woodward Throwbacks, you'll most likely see me, and Kyle will pop in like maybe like once every other month, trying to work on him to make a cameo more, but we'll see. But yeah, so I think just like having like our defined roles, there is going to be some overlap, but at least it's not so much where we're confusing our team, which we still kind of do, or like disagreeing. At least we can like, this is my project, this is your project.
Right.
Mhm.
Yeah. How big is your team?
There's like around 10 people normally.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
it's
great.
small enough.
Wow.
Yeah, small enough, but also big enough, right?
Yeah.
This is potentially boring, but I'm always curious like how stuff works in different places. So I know you worked as a automobile designer. I assume there's a more specific kind of field within that. Was it the actual like hardware of the car? Like what was that?
Yeah. So I went to college for creative studies. The reason why I moved to Detroit, because Detroit is the capital of the automotive industry, which you would never know.
Right.
Well, I
I think it's pretty well known. It's the Motor City.
I've heard it.
You didn't know that,
Detroit.
apparently.
I guess you just never really click about like what people actually do. I mean, I know when I was in high school and I loved cars, but I didn't know that car design was a career I can go into. So that's what I mean. I just got really lucky where I was looking at a Car and Driver magazine and I saw an ad for, it was a school in California for transportation design. I was like, oh, so something, clicked. But yeah, so graduated CCS in transportation design. And then I designed interior. So like, if you literally go sit in your car, it's like the entire interior. So like the steering wheel, the IP, the dash, the center column, the seats. I actually worked on the second gen Chevy Volt. I was on that team.
Oh, cool.
And then towards the end of my career, I was doing pickup trucks for Chevy and GMC, like the Silverado, the Denali.
We had a Chevy Volt.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, a long time ago, we had a Chevy Volt. But, I guess, of course, it's a job. Of course it is. But I never once sat down and thought about somebody going to the office and designing interiors of cars.
Oh, yeah.
Until you just say it. Of course it's a job.
Oh, I mean, it's like literally hand sketching. And then we do a lot of Photoshop. And then in tandem, you're working with like the clay modelers, and you're working with the 3D modelers, and then you're working with the engineer team. And usually they're in India. So you're staying there really late. And so it's a really big organization. And I loved it until I didn't, because I hate people telling me what to do. And starting Woodward Throwbacks with Kyle, there was just so much creative freedom to just do whatever. And like I said, really think outside the box when it comes to design. And so, it's stressful being an entrepreneur and a business owner, but it is really rewarding in so many ways. We are pioneering something in the sense of we're trying to change the way that society sees reclaimed materials in design, and not like an ultra rustic way, but like a modern and eclectic and contemporary way.
Really fresh approach.
I think that's very needed in the world of reclaim. You know, I feel like, I don't know, 15 years ago or so, like everything became reclaimed and it all looked exactly the same and it was super boring and very dusty. And so to have this sort of next generation of stuff that is also reclaimed, but doesn't kind of like have that one barnwood aesthetic, I think is very refreshing and nice to see. Because I use a lot of reclaimed materials too, and I'm very sensitive to like kind of not wanting it to look like it came right out of a barn. Like it came out of a barn a while ago.
Yeah.
So you transition from what I gather is a very kind of corporate job. My brother actually worked for Ford for 6 months. He moved to Detroit, and his background is in user interface design. And he basically worked as an app developer for all these years. And then he gets a job at Ford. And I remember like the first day of work, he's like, I wasn't allowed to use my Mac. They gave me a PC, and it was like a whole crisis. And for about 6 months, he was just like, had no idea what corporate life was like.
Yeah.
But it must be, I mean, just a huge contrast to go from an environment like that to truly just building a business on your own with your quite literal own two hands. And like, were you afraid to make that leap, or did you feel like it was going to be fine?
Oh, I mean, if you're not afraid, you're not doing something right. You know what I mean? Like, you're not pushing yourself. But yeah, I mean, of course, it's funny when I left the corporate world, obviously I was making decent money. Maybe I wasn't, paying off my student loans as fast as I should. But,
nobody is.
And I know, oh, God.
We know.
Yeah. But as soon as I left the industry, it's actually the same year that we bought our warehouse, which is 24,000 square feet. It's actually an old Dodge dealership that we converted into our warehouse and workshop and showroom. And so once we got into that space, I was like, oh my God, this is a really big deal. And so I spoke with Kyle. We looked over our finances. We're like, and I also just bought a house like a couple of years before. And I was like, we need to Airbnb our house and just live in the shop, just so we can kind of like financially balance things out, since I wasn't making GM money. And we lived there for a year, and it was kind of exciting just because it was somewhere new.
Yeah. We've always been kind of like, I mean, it's obviously scary. And it's always like, there's too many times where it's like, oh my God, we're out of money again. You're like, how does this keep happening? And then it's like, well, what are we going to do? I'm like, well, let's finish this property and sell it, or this, that's like, that's just kind of being an entrepreneur is. It's a stressful life, but there's just like so many amazing, awesome things that we've been able to do because of this crazy path that we keep putting ourselves on. And like when we got the car dealership building, and Bo was saying, it's like, we're just kind of like, hey, like, I think we need to just make this a thing. Like, you just need to quit and like, let's put all our effort onto this and just make this real, because otherwise, like, working after work and this and that, we get this huge building now, we're getting more employees. Just like, man, there's a lot for me every day, but it's also like, if we're going to do this, let's do it.
Let's just go for it.
And mind you, we bought that building when we were like 26.
Yeah, we were
crazy. Absolutely crazy.
And we still are.
Yeah.
I think that's why we work so well together, because we push ourselves, but we also have a common goal and a common vision, even though it's like our life is going to be extremely stressful, but it's going to be exciting.
How do you regroup? Do you ever have to do that? Just regroup. You realize, okay, we're losing the plot here. Let's come back and figure it out again.
Always.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean,
that's a constant thing.
We both have our own things. Like, I like to go for bike rides and like play like sports and stuff and kind of just get away from it. And that's great. Also, like going on a little 2-day vacation's really helpful, even if it's just going up to the woods for 2 days or somewhere, like just to get away, get out of the city for 2 days. It's like a good reset.
I just go in my car and I cry for like 5 minutes and then I'm okay.
Oh, perfect.
Honestly, I think releasing some emotion actually helps a lot. But I think when it comes to our brand regrouping, sometimes if we feel like we're kind of like pivoting too far in one way, I guess just like being able to communicate and to be like, okay, this is what's worked. Okay, we want to test the waters and something else. And so we like kind of tiptoe before we go like head first, or we just go head first and like hope for the best.
Yeah, there's that saying, leap and the net will appear. And I lead my life a lot like that, probably more than I should.
I wanted to ask about your house, which you mentioned. that you've now sold. But I think I recall, and I apologize if this is wrong, I think I recall that you were very much intending for that to be kind of your forever house. You rehabbed it for yourselves, not really thinking that you were going to sell it right away. Is that you're doing the old kind of?
So Bo always wants to keep every place.
I want to keep it all.
Yeah,
Come on.
she wants to keep it all.
Well,
I get it.
yeah, it was such a gorgeous house in an amazing neighborhood.
It was.
Yeah, and I think for me, I mean, I had some thoughts of it'd be really awesome to make this like a Woodward Throwbacks, like branded B&B, you know, where it's just like maybe some of the furniture was for sale. But we just sunk, it was right in the middle of the pandemic. I mean, in the beginning of the pandemic when we were renovating this house. So our money source just like disappeared in a sense. And we had a lot of help from my dad, who's a contractor back in New York. And I think like he spent the entire summer with us, like really bringing the home to the finish line. And for me, I was very emotionally attached and invested because that was the most time I had to spend with my dad since I lived back home in like high school. So there was like a lot of memories for me. And I learned so much. Just, I always knew how to tile, but I tiled the entire like bathroom. Like he was just like, all right, we're doing this. And then when he left, I was like, all right, I'm going to wrap this up. So that's why I think that was probably the hardest part for me of letting it go. But we needed the cash. And then we also bought another warehouse. So yeah.
Not this one.
Yeah, we actually have another one.
Started working on.
So how many properties do we own?
I think we have like
we're liquidating
5 or 6.
We're liquidating right now.
5 or 6.
Yeah. But before we bought this warehouse, my dream building, this is also a dream, but the other dream building, we purchased it, spent a lot of money in architectural drawings because, like I said, it's built in the late 1800s. We're calling it Chateau Buffet. Very like arched windows, like glazed yellow brick, just absolutely amazing, and had a ton of land. And so, yeah, one of the walls was extremely compromised. And so we just finished paying a pretty penny on fixing that. But the project's on hold because we bought this building.
Yeah. This one came available as we were like just gearing up and working on that one. A realtor called us, was like, hey, I got this building that like I think you guys are gonna really love. And I was like, well, we're not trying to buy anything right now. Then she sends me the address and I was like, oh my God.
No, it's that one.
I was like, this one. I was like, I know this one. I sent it to Bo and I was like, oh, you're not gonna believe this, but like Liz sent me this. It's gonna be for sale. She's gonna list it for like a lot less than we thought.
We got it off market. We literally got this property off market. I remember walking through this property with Kyle, and like I said, it was just hoarder vibes. Like it was 12 dumpsters of just garbage. And we tried to save as much as we could when it comes to like, we didn't throw away any books. There's a ton of artwork because she was an artist. So we kept all that, sold some of it, but it really was just like trash, like lots of boxes. And going back to our first day, Kyle was like, hey, I have a meeting in 10 minutes. But then he was like, I just want to let you know that, we have to buy this building. And I looked at him and I was like, yeah, I know.
Yeah, I was here for 5 minutes.
And he
like,
left.
Yeah, cool. Like, as I said, Liz, we're buying it. Don't list it. We'll figure it out. So we took all the money that we kind of made off that last house, started working on the new warehouse, and then immediately bought this one. And we're like, all right, cool, let's just go for it. So
yeah.
Now we're out of money again, and we're selling another house, and we're like,
yeah, but you have work to keep you occupied for years, or at least another month until you buy your next warehouse.
I think we're gonna take a break after this.
Yeah, we need a pause after this one.
Yeah. Sounds like you could use a vacation.
I know. That's the problem.
All right. Well, we are out of time. Your book is so wonderful, beautifully photographed, really enjoyable read. And I was wondering if you would be willing to, what we like to do when we have authors on the show is to give away a signed copy. And I wondered if you would sign a book for us to give away to listeners.
Of course. We would love to.
No problem.
All right.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Well, I will put that in the show notes. That address will be truetalesfromoldhouses.com/giveaway. The whole title of the book is Throwbacks Home Interiors, One-of-a-Kind Home Design from Reclaimed and Salvaged Goods. And it's wonderful. Absolutely great. Well, it was so fun to have you here today. Thank you for doing this, for sitting down and talking to us about your work and your life and your 5 warehouses. And
well, thank you so much for having us. And we're so happy you're enjoying the book. And we look forward to many more people enjoying Throwbacks Home Interiors.
Great.
Thank you,
Thanks
guys.
again.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you for listening to True Tales from Old Houses, and thank you to our guests, Bo Shepard and Kyle Dubay. Don't forget to enter the current book giveaways. We have 2 of those right now. One for A House Restored by Lee McColgan, and the other one is Woodward Throwbacks by Bo Shepard and Kyle Dubay. Enter those giveaways at truetalesfromoldhouses.com/giveaway.
And if you love this episode, we'd love to know about it. So drop us an email or leave us a voicemail, and please consider leaving a rating or review wherever you enjoy your favorite podcasts.
To continue the conversation, join us on Facebook and Instagram at True Tales from Old Houses and individually at Blake Hill House or at Daniel Cantor.
And to learn more about everything we discussed in today's episode or request a transcript, visit truetalesfromoldhouses.com.
Until next time.
See you on the mini-sode.